Hi everyone, me again with another treat from Ethiopia. This was purchased from Royal Tiger. This is a 1891 Cavalry carbine. This just came in. This did come probably dirtier than all the rest of them put together. It took a couple hours and it's still not fully completely clean, that is. Some of the stuff that I use for cleaning I ran out of, and so I would call it about 50% cleaned out. So it isn't as clean as it could possibly be. This is kind of an overview of what it looks like. Interestingly enough, there was a $200 extra charge for the old style bayonet locking system, which I did not pay, and yet I got it anyways, which I guess is kind of great, I guess, in a way. I don't know that it's necessarily worth the additional $200, but there it is. It's interesting. Now, you may think that I'm missing the upper handguard, but I'm actually not. These super early ones did not have them. It was only added later, maybe even as late as World War I. I'm not 100% sure, but you can tell that because here's another one, for example. This is one that I'm rebuilding from a barrel action. This is not from Royal Tiger, but as you can see, the upper band has this this little lip right here, and then there's this notch for an upper handguard at the rear sight to lock into. And as you can see on this guy, both of those are just plainly missing. They later on determined that it's probably a good idea to have an upper handguard, but this one does not have it yet. And so, interestingly enough, functionally, I guess this makes it a little worse, but it's actually a rarer specimen. Let me kind of show you some other kind of condition stuff going on. So we have a stock repair here. Not the best quality. I'm wondering if I should touch that up and also kind of stain it to match or not. And then we'll show you the other side real quick. So this is about what I got. As you can see, it's really quite ugly. These were advertised in fair to good condition, so I don't know that I wouldn't say that this was misrepresented in that regard, but not the most attractive rifle for sure. The other kind of funny thing is, and through all the pitting, you may not even be able to see, probably can't see that on the import mark. They mark it as a 735, even though this is a 6.5, and I'm not the first one to whom they've done that, so that's just kind of a known reported situation for these. And so let me just give you another overview, and now the underside. So because this was kind of advertised as fair to good, and it does seem, you know, it seems to match that. I'm not, you know, terribly disappointed in the condition. I really have no reason to be surprised by now. This is the third one of from the Ethiopia batch that I bought, second Carcano. What does make me happy is the mechanical condition that it's in is actually surprisingly good. The action is smooth. You know, seems to work well. The bore, it looks amazing for what it is. It's shiny. It's got well-defined lands and grooves. I think it's going to be a really good shooter, especially compared to my 9124, because these barrels were they still have the gain twist rifling, but this barrel was made at this length. It was never cut down like the 9124 is, so I would anticipate that it would be a good shooter. I don't have any ammo on hand right now, but I'm suspecting that it'll do considerably better, so I'll report it if it doesn't, of course, because, you know, just in the name of you know, integrity and disclosure. But this one I'm quite a bit happier with than the other one already, because nothing is broken, everything is complete. Having had it apart, I didn't have to replace anything. You know, no screws looked funny, so it's not really the nicest looking gun, not even close. I mean, obviously it's really rather quite ugly, I'd say, but I actually suspect that it's going to be a good shooter. That's my anticipation towards this particular example. So the question is, would I buy this one again, knowing that this is going to show up? And I would say probably yes. Now, that's helped along a little bit because there was a 20% off sale going on, so I didn't really pay all that much for it. And so, you know, that certainly takes, you know, basically should be taken into account. But mechanically, this thing is solid. I do think it'll clean up quite a bit better. I may replace that magazine because it does look a little, if it doesn't clean up, I may have to. I do have more of them. So, but yeah, I'm actually reasonably pleased with this one. I do anticipate it's going to shoot well, just given the bore condition and so forth. And the action is actually really quite smooth for a Carcano. They, generally speaking, I always thought they had kind of chintzy actions compared to pretty much anything else I've ever shot. This one isn't terrible. This is, honestly, without exaggeration, I say the best of the bunch that I've had. And there's been quite a few. So this is not bad. I would give this one probably maybe B minus. I mean, I would like to have been pleasantly surprised by the condition, but they didn't advertise that these would be, you know, beauty queens, and it certainly is about as far removed from being a beauty queen as can be. But I think this is going to be a fun one. So some final thoughts on the Ethiopian batch and whether, you know, you should buy something from it or not. I guess it really depends on what you're after. If you want a historical artifact, essentially, or something that, you know, can be tied to, you know, Ethiopia, East Africa, you know, you're into, you know, Haile Selassie and Menelik II and Italian East Africa and all this other cool stuff, then you just want, you know, something that could be tied to that, an artifact from those times and that place, then yeah, I think these would be a pretty decent choice because they're not terribly expensive for you know, relative to what they are, and you know, you're guaranteed to get that much pretty much. But as far as if you want a really nice example of just, you know, one of these models of firearm, then you're probably better off looking elsewhere. Like I said, these are fairly affordable for what they are, relatively speaking. Like, for example, the Mauser here. The base price for it was, you know, $450, which for a German Mauser, it's not impossible to find, but you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find one at that price these days, unfortunately. But, you know, having you know, had to replace a bunch of parts to get it to be even safe to fire, you know, I ended up spending probably about the same as, you know, getting some kind of Russian capture Mauser instead, which, you know, even after this one got fixed up, you know, the Russian capture Mauser probably would have been nicer anyways. And so if I just wanted a Mauser 98, then I probably should have just looked elsewhere. Now, if you're into, again, if the Africa provenance matters, then yes, I suppose, you know, more so than having a really nice example. Now, even this Carcano, which, like I said, seems like mechanically solid. I didn't have to replace anything. I did take it apart, you know, there's nothing funny about it, but it's not that nice. And if you really want a decent, you know, Carcano Cavalry carbine, they're all over, and they're gonna cost you more. You know, you may spend $100 more, $150, who knows, but you're gonna get something nicer. So if you want just a nice Carcano, a nice Mauser, you know, yeah, you're probably better off spending a little more, and you'll get more for it. So that's kind of where my thoughts are on that. I know some of their models are a little rarer and harder to find, and maybe then you know, the equation starts to look a little different. And also it may vary depending on the model. I've heard that the M1 carbines are generally pretty nice, relatively speaking. Most people are pretty happy with those. I didn't buy one myself because I already had one before any of this, but and they're still available, so maybe I'll pick one up yet. But that's kind of it. Basically, that's where I would draw the line is do you want, you know, a cool, you know, quote unquote piece of history, or do you want a really nice example of something? And you know, that's kind of where your choice is. Now, you may luck out and get something that cleans up supremely well. It has happened to some people, reportedly. I'd say the odds of that are probably on the lower side. I'd say less than, you know, 50%. I mean, I bought 3 of these things from there, and as far as being really nice, I wouldn't describe any of them are really nice. They all kind of, you know, well, the Mauser wasn't even safe to shoot, as you saw. And, you know, this Carcano here is safe to shoot. It's complete. Nothing is broken, but it's far from nice as far as, you know, from an aesthetic perspective. And the third Carcano, and the other Carcano, which I didn't bother to pull out, but I do still have. Well, you saw what it was like. So as far as, you know, multiple cracks in the stock, it had the one, chewed up screw that needed replacing. So as far as, you know, this I think is a pretty good representation of what you can expect. And if, you know, if this is what you're after, you know, then of course, yeah, go ahead, you know, make that decision. It's an informed decision at this point. And if not, if you just want something that, again, looks a lot better than any of these, then, you know, look elsewhere. And that's it, I guess. Thanks for watching.